Right, cool. So 5.3, determine the value of n showing all your working. So determine the value of n showing all your working. Okay. Now we'll recall that when it comes to our question, okay, so we've got our x-axis, okay, so we've got our x coordinates, whereby the first set of your x coordinates is actually equals to -3/2 is to 0, okay, that's the first one, and then the second one is actually equals to 2 is to 0. We also have another point, okay, so one point that we said is actually half is to 6, okay. We actually have got another point which is half is to 6, all right, and there is another point which is 0 is to 6, but actually we won't actually need. All right, cool. So we'll recall now that we said the value of n is actually the y-intercept of the turning point, which can be represented as y being equals to a into x minus p all squared plus q. All right. So in other words, if you look at this equation closely, the element that we need to solve for is actually q, which is basically the value of n. And you'll notice that in order for you to be able to solve for q, you will need at least 1 point, okay? So by 1 point, it means you're going to have your x and you're going to have your y. So we do have 1 point. So in other words, we have our y and we have our x, okay? You're also going to need your x coordinate of your turning point, okay? And then in this case, we basically know that our x coordinate of our turning point is 1/4. That's our x coordinate of our turning point. It means we have our p as well. However, we don't have our a. Okay, so we need our a first. Then we can plug in our a here and therefore solve for q, which is the same as the value of n, because we say they're one and the same thing. So it means we must find a way you calculate ubani, you calculate a qala, okay? Then mase sinayo a bese siyamthatha ke siyamfakela la, okay, and then emva kalapho only sesingakhona ucalculate bani, ucalculate uq. Okay, right, cool. So khumbula ukuthi ke but ikhona ke futhi enye equation esikhona ukuyisebenzisa to calculate or to determine equation ye-parabola noma to find the value ka a. Le equation leyo le ethi y is equals to a into x minus x1 into x minus x2. Okay, so by just substituting ipoint lakhe lodwa sikhulenisa y no x bese substitute ama x coordinates akho la, because lo x lo yafana nalo, so x oyedwa mfaka la nala, bese kuthi usubstitute ama x coordinates la, uyakhona ukusolve for a. Then once one a wakho, then ezinye step can easily follow. So because la sinama coordinates awu2, na x coordinates enye nansi enye x coordinate, so sizokhona ucalculate value ka a la kuqala, okay, and therefore we can actually solve our a bese siyamthatha a wethi mfaka kule equation bese solve for bani, for q. Okay, so ake substitute. So we have our y wethu ubani u6, because kwenza y and kwenza x ufaka ipoint lethe sinalo. So y wethu u6, which is equals to our a, okay, our a into x wethu u-half, so soba no half minus x1 wethu, okay, so bona la ukuthi ubani u2 into then x wethu safana nalo ngala bese sifaka bani futhi ngala u-half minus into x2 wethu ubani u-negative 3/2, guys. Okay, so it means la soba no 6 is equals to, so you can easily work out lana ke respectively. So half minus 2 uyalingana no negative 3/2 into, and then senze la uzonothisa ukuthi negative times negative usikhiphela bani u-positive bese siba no half, okay, simhlanganisa no 3/2, and then in this case la so phuma no bani, so phuma no 2 respectively. Okay, right, cool. And then emvakalana ke when you actually multiply negative 3/2 sometimes no 2 siphuma no bani, no negative 3. Okay, and then ekupheleni kosuku so soba no bani, soba no 6 ngale ngaphesheya elingana no bani ngala, elingana no negative 3a. and then evakalana-ke so divide ngobani ngo-negative 3 ngala sidivide ngobani ngo-negative 3 ngala bese phuma nobani no-a wethu lingana nobani no-negative 2. Okay, so sesinayo a wethu for this equation u-negative 2. So sesingawuthatha-ke leyo a u-negative 2 simfakele into this equation bese sisolve for bani for u-q ofanayo nobani no-n. Okay, right, cool. So asifakele everything else ke, right? So sinalo i-point sesikwenza y no-x sifakela lelo point lelo. So our point is half and 6. So esikwenza y ke sofakela bani u-6. Okay, sofakela bani sofakela u-6 which is equals to, then sikwenza a siyamazi u-a wethu ukuthi ubani u-negative 2 manje sifaka u-negative 2 esikwenza a and then into la sibona khona u-x sifaka u-x wethu and siyamazi u-x wethu ukuthi ubani u-half which is going to be 1 over 2 minus, and then p wethu is our x for the turning point which is actually 1 over 4, and all this will be squared plus q wethu noma n. Ngicela ukusala sengifaka u-n ngoba vele bayafana, so q no n is hand eyodwa in this case because u-n will represent i-y coordinated turning point kanti q wethu last here usuke i-y coordinated turning point. Right, and then evakalana-ke soba no-6 being equals to siyazi ubomdas wethu uthi asidile ne-bracket kuqala, so soba no minus 2 into, so half minus a quarter, so half esinkwa susa ikota kusala ini kusala ikota. Okay, all squared plus n. Okay, and then when we square this sisala no 6 being equals to, siyazi the first thing we do is squareisha kuqala then only times la ngaphandle, so soba no minus 2 into 1 over 16, because if you've got 1 over 4 squared it means squareisha numerator squareisha denominator, so kuzoba ubani 1 over 4 squared uzoba ubani 1 over 16 plus n. Okay, and then evakalana-ke we're therefore going to be multiplying. Okay, siyakhumbula ukuthi ukutimes kwala akufana lokutimes kade sikwenza ngenhla ukushintsha i-fraction, so ukutimes kwala it means fanele wazi ukuthi ke akuyona awushintshi i-mixed fraction la. Okay, so what you're doing is you're actually multiplying fractions, so uso negative 2 over 1 naleyanto liyana. Okay, so basically when you're multiplying you're going to have your numerator times your numerator over denominator times denominator, so sizoba no 6 being equals to negative 2 times 1 sibe no negative 2 over 1 times 16 sibe no bani no 16 plus n. So this can be further simplified ngoba uyangena u2 ngenhla angene ngezansi angashiya remainder, so sizoba no 6, okay, being equals to negative 1 over 8 plus n. Then evakalana you can easily solve for n by transposing 1 over 8 simulating ngaphesheya sibe no 6 plus 1 over 8 being equals to n ngoba vele 1 over 8 kade negative ngala, so positive mase fika ngala, so therefore our n is going to be equals to 49 over 8, guys. Okay, so this brings us to the end of our 5.3. Again, guys, feel free to ask me. I hope it makes sense, and I do recommend try and redo this question and then try and comprehend ukhulume exactly how we spoke and try and uyifundise wena exactly what we spoke about. Okay, but other than that, makukhona umbuzo, feel free ukuthi ningibuze under the comment section. Ngiyabonga, guys, until we meet again in our next question. Goodbye.